Hi there, let's get started with another class. I'm interested in sharing some information about present moment awareness. I know we've probably talked about this before, and I know everyone listening is aware of what that's about. It's really just paying attention to what's happening right this minute. We get too caught up in what ifs and I wish I could have and whatever went on last week or last year, and we worry a lot about what has already happened, and we know we can't do anything about it, but still the concern is there, and so it occupies a lot of the conscious thinking. And the same thing with the future events, possibilities, and things that we hope for and strive to accomplish. So those things also occupy our conscious mind. And when those things are of upfront concern, then we tend to lose what really could be going on at this moment. I guess it's kind of obvious that that's true, but living in the third dimension makes it a little more challenging to put that into practice if we don't diligently work with that. So I want to support you this month in really being aware of what you're doing moment by moment. This really clears up a lot within the ego thinking and all of the sabotaging things that go on in our conscious mind. And also the sabotage that comes up from the subconscious. Now, the subconscious holds a lot of information about us, and it brings things up as we need them, but it also brings up issues that we may have thought had been resolved or that we don't really believe to be true, but the subconscious for some reason feels like it needs to keep giving it to us. That can really sidetrack us from what we have at hand, the work that we need to do now. Also, thinking about the conscious minds, we also have the higher conscious, and that is the divine connection that we have. So if we're so wrapped up in what's going on subconsciously from the past, having that reviewed in our present moment, and the conscious mind planning and organizing and thinking about all the things that could be going on in the future, that can block our connection with the divine and with our higher selves. And one of the main things we want to do with development is to always be able to connect to our higher self. And that's the part that tries to guide us in the direction that we've chosen to go as spirit, and the experiences that we need to have to accomplish what we want to in this lifetime. So for the blockages to hold that up, that's not being very useful. Let's do something that will help us clear those blockages. That is being aware of present moment. Now, it takes a little bit of discipline, but if we do it for a minute a day, that can be big. If we can expand that to 2 minutes a day, that's even bigger. And if we can use it in meditation, that's even more powerful than what you would think it would be. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you are aware of what you're thinking, and we tend to just kind of go la 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 through our day, not paying attention and letting all these thoughts roll around in our heads, and we're not really in control of what's happening. So when we are in control, then we are in the moment. Let's say you're driving to work, or to the grocery, or to visit a friend, and it's a regular route that you normally travel. So it's a mundane task. You're used to doing it, and it's repetitive, and so your conscious mind tends to play other records. And you're thinking about what's going on next week, and thinking about what he said and she said, and what your cousin's going to do when they come to visit, and how you're going to plan an activity. And we tend to be open-minded, and then the subconscious will kick in, and all of these fears and things that we don't want to show themselves pop up. After we get past all of those things, then sometimes we can actually access our spirit guides and work with them. But driving a car is not a good time for that to all happen. You really need to be aware. You need to know moment by moment what's going on. And then if something's coming up in traffic a moment or two ahead, your guides can allow you to be cognizant of that, and intuition will kick in, and you'll be able to maneuver around a situation that you might have gotten caught up in the middle of. Because traffic can be very tricky. Just because this is a regular route that you're traveling doesn't mean it's always going to be clear. It doesn't mean that crazy drivers don't show up. It doesn't mean that somebody's car might break down right in the middle of the street. So you have to be aware moment by moment. Now, I'm not saying don't go into your intuitive mode. Don't go into the connection with your guides. I'm saying keep the connection clear so that you can access that if you need to. But the most important task at hand is driving safely in your car so that you reach the destination you've intended. So every time, and I don't want you to do this necessarily in the car while you're driving to start with, but as you're sitting here listening to what I'm saying, your mind might be wandering to what you could be doing instead, or my favorite is making the list at the grocery store, because that's something that I do quite often. And you may be thinking about the argument you had with boss yesterday, or anything like that, regular stuff that goes on in life. But that's not where you need to have yourself connected. You should always be living in the moment. So when the thought about the argument you had yesterday starts ruminating in your mind, pay attention to it. Be aware of it. Say, oh, I'm thinking about yesterday. I need to be present. I need to be here and now. I don't need to worry about that. It's done. So now I'll just be aware of what I'm listening to, of what I'm looking at, how my body feels at this moment. I'm totally aware of all of my physical senses. And I'm here now, and everything is perfect, just the way it is. Now this is going to be tricky, because as soon as you get to that present moment, your subconscious is going to kick in again. And for the moment that you think you're home free and you're really paying attention to what's happening around you, you're going to wander off again in your mind. That's just human nature. That's part of, I will call, the veil that keeps us separate from who we truly are. And you don't really want that veil there. We want to lift the veil, or we want to clear the fog. We want to see clearly. We want to hear clearly. We want to feel clearly. And that is present moment, because everything else does not exist. It just isn't something that exists right now. Right now is just right now. I'm not saying you have to do that 24/7. But I am saying you should be able to access the present moment whenever you want to. And you should be able to know when you're sabotaging yourself subconsciously, or your conscious ego sabotages you and tries to make you think something that's not in your truth. Now, this information is all well and good, but how does that relate to your development right now? And why am I talking about that? Because being in control of your present moment, your now time, that clears the fog. That opens the vessel between the subconscious to the conscious to the superconscious.
You see, those three parts, I believe, represents the triune being of what we are, the body, mind, and spirit. The body, of course, I believe would be the conscious mind, because that's what deals with the mundane world. That's what is third-dimensional reality, or non-reality, however you want to look at it. That's what's going on in your world. The subconscious is the mind, because that stores everything that you've experienced in your life. And the higher conscious is the spirit. That truly is where the connection is made between who you are as a spirit being human and who you are as a divine being. That's where you want to be, because that's where you get the clearest messages. That's where you get the clearest direction for your life. Your higher self will always give you good, sound, uplifting, inspirational advice and information. So by being aware of the present moment, you're clearing the subconscious prompters, you're clearing the conscious ego, and you're allowing the flow to move on up to the higher self. Perfect. It's not something you're going to accomplish all the time. But since we're talking about it right now, you'll be aware of it much more than you were yesterday. And the more you become aware of it, you'll say to yourself, well, I don't need to think about that. I just need to be aware of where I'm sitting right now, what I'm looking at out the window, what I'm listening to on the radio, or the conversation that I'm in. How many times are we in conversations and all these other stories are rolling around in our minds, distracting us from really listening to the person we're talking to? We're talking, but we're not listening. And if we're not listening to that person, then what kind of a conversation is that? Also, your spirit guides may be trying to get information to you, but you're too clogged up and bogged down by what subconscious is trying to do. And the ego self is getting you puffed up over something you just accomplished, where in reality that accomplishment is already in the past, and it's not here and now.
We are sum total of everything that has happened up until this moment. So we're not losing anything by not focusing and being stuck in the past. We are who we are now because of everything that we've experienced. So here, right now, is a total sum of that experience. So I would suggest that when you do meditations this month, this is going to seem kind of backward, but I want you to do some of the regular meditations for your development that you do on a regular basis. But every once in a while, do a meditation, and as you're just quiet and relaxing, go through your mind doing a mundane task. And I would suggest probably washing the dishes or cleaning out your refrigerator, sweeping the steps in the front of your yard, or mowing the lawn. See yourself clearing a shelf in the garage. Just stay focused on that task. I can remember when I was in high school in marching band. During the marching season, during football season, we would be out every class day outside working the routines. We over and over and over. The harder routine, the harder formation or drill that we were doing, we would section it out and do it over and over and over. And every time we walked it out or marched it out, we would be playing that section of music with our instruments. So each step would be coordinated to the music. And we got better and better each week. So if it was a rainy day and we couldn't go out to practice, the director would have us sit in the band room and play the music that went with that program, with that halftime show. And as we were playing the music, we could visualize each marching step we made. We can imagine every turn that we made, every arm signal that we made, every up and down of the instrument, every halt. That's what athletes would call being in the zone. They would go through their plays for football or basketball, and especially football, I think. And they would call that being in the zone. They would be in a really deep meditation, but they would be going through every play and seeing themselves catching the football, seeing themselves running down the field, seeing themselves maybe passing the ball to a closer player that could take it to the goal post. They would see themselves doing what they really wanted to do in that gameplay. And that's what we did in marching band. We would see ourselves marching perfectly to the music, in step, perfect formations, perfect drills, and marching off the field and seeing the crowd cheering and yelling because we did such a good job. So I want you to practice doing something like that. And I'm not saying, do a marching formation or even a football play, but see yourself doing something that's important to you. It could be that you're wanting to maybe make a new meal, and you're pulling out a new recipe that you want to try, and so you see yourself dicing the onions and cutting the carrots at a certain slant, or maybe browning the meat a certain way, or creating certain kind of a wrap, or certain style of Chinese food. Whatever new thing that you want to do, or something that you love doing all the time. But I like doing it with washing dishes. And I put off washing dishes as much as I can. I do not have a dishwasher because I don't have the space for it right now. But I wash them by hand, and so I don't do it every day. I stack them up. I rinse them off. I stack them up. But when I get in the mood, then I go do the dishes, and I accomplish a lot because I want to do them. But in my meditation, I can do them every day. And I know just how I like to do them. I do the silverware first, and I get those cleaned and drained. And then I go on to the glasses, and then I go on to the dishes, and then the pots and pans, and then I wash out the sink and the counters. And there's a certain way that I like to do things, and so I see myself doing them. So I know that when I really physically do them, I'll do them just perfectly, and I'll do them quickly, and I'll be happy with the outcome. So this is your exercise for this month. During your meditations, see yourself doing some type of a physical activity that may be repetitive or done a certain way, but see each detail that you do. Don't let your mind wander off. If it does, acknowledge that and bring it back to the chore or the activity that you've chosen to witness. And you'll notice that your mind will wander quite a lot in your meditations, but it does. But you'll have more control over it. So this is something you'll be able to use in the development meditation as well. The other task, or the other exercise, is to spend 1 minute every day. You may pick a certain time, like when you first get up in the morning, or the first minute you're at work at your desk, or first minute of your lunch hour. Take that minute and just be very aware of everything around you at that moment. What do your clothes feel like on you? Where are you sitting? If you're on the grass, do the blades of grass feel funny on your legs? What do you hear? Are there birds chirping? Can you hear the grasshoppers or the crickets? What do you see? Are you looking up? Can you see the clouds? Or if it's at night, do you see the stars? Just be very aware of that 1 minute moment. And see if you can expand that further and further. Or do the 1 minute at different times during the day. This is going to be very powerful. And I want to hear details later. You have a good day.